Good day, my name is Maria Eva Claire Saison Manaay, your new science teacher from the Philippines. Please tell us about yourself. What are your interests and hobbies? I love reading. Stephen King is my favorite author. I also love surfing the net. I love reading articles on the internet. And I also love spending time with my family and especially my daughter. Are you involved in extracurricular activities that you could coach or supervise? Yes, I own a review and tutorial center with my husband, and I serve as its vice president. So I talk with my staff, I meet with them, I also present our programs in different schools. I also prepare the schedules of the lecturers, and I also give lectures in science and in professional education subjects. Why did you decide to become a teacher for the subject for which you are applying? I love science. It is my favorite subject. Before, I wanted to become a doctor. But since I've changed my career path, when I decided to become a teacher, I opted to teach science. Are you currently employed as a teacher? Yes, I'm currently teaching in the senior high school of Ateneo de Iloilo. Currently, I'm teaching research. Then last semester, I've taught earth science and physical science for grade 11 and grade 12. How many hours per day do you teach and how many days per week? I teach for 4 hours per day, and that's 5 days in a week. So that's a total of 20 hours per week. Describe your teaching experience. What subjects have you taught and at what grade level? When I started teaching, after I took the licensure exam for teachers, I've started working in the review center where I had my review, and I became a lecturer for science and also for professional education subjects. Then in 2011, I started working in Ateneo de Iloilo. So I've taught all subjects in science there for high school. That's integrated science, biology, chemistry, and physics laboratory. Then in 2014, I went to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia to teach in an international school. So there I've also taught science, and I've taught chemistry also for grade 7, 8, 9, science for grade 5, and also for grade 6. Now, when I came back in the Philippines, that was in 2016, last year, I've continued working in our review center as the vice president, and I also give lectures in science and professional education subjects. Then by 2017, I went back to Ateneo, and I've taught earth science for grade 11 and physical science for grade 12 last semester, and then this sem I'm teaching them research. Describe other work experiences you have had besides teaching. So aside from teaching, I'm also working as vice president of our own company, our own review center. So this is a review center for education graduates who are going to be taking their licensure exams. Have you ever worked in the United States? If so, when, where, and why? No, this is going to be my first time to be in the US. What do you hope to be doing professionally 5 years from now? 5 years from now, of course, I would still be teaching, and I might still have the review and tutorial center, or maybe I already opened my own school. If I were to talk to several of your colleagues, how would they describe your personality? I think they would say that I am a very friendly person and I'm very easy to get along with. I'm also very helpful, so whenever some of my colleagues would be absent, I would be there to be the substitute teacher for their class. There is going to be no problem when they work with me. So I think they have very good things to say about me. What would your students say about you? We've just had our evaluation, and most of the comments they've told me were that I am one of the nicest teachers around. I can easily adjust with their needs, and also I prepare very well for my subjects. How do you prepare to teach your lessons? Of course, I prepare my lesson plan. If there is some parts of the lesson plan that I need to test first, for example, in the motivation part, if there's going to be some activity or if there's going to be some laboratory tests, then I try to test it myself first to see if it's working or not. Then, of course, I check whether all the parts of my lesson plans are coherent with one another, if my evaluation would be in sync with my classroom activities and also my objectives of the day. What would your lesson plans include? Yes, as I've already mentioned, my lesson plans would include the objective, then motivation, or the pre-lecture. We call it here in the Philippines as pre-lecture. So this is like the checking of the assignment or motivating the students, gaining their attention. Then after that, of course, we have the class activity, or that's the lesson proper. Then afterwards, we'd have some sort of group activities or student activities. Then towards the end, we'd have the evaluation and the homework. Think about the class that you have taught recently. Talk about 2 of the teaching strategies or methods that you used. Yes, the first method that I've used recently was the reporting. I've used this because there was a big chapter on the different theories regarding the beginning of the universe and of the solar system. So I've divided the class into several groups. Then I've given them the topics. Then I've asked them to report this topic in front of their class. And of course, their classmates afterwards can ask them some questions. And then I'd also ask them some questions. Then there is another strategy that I've used recently in my physical science subject. I've called this the mentor-apprentice strategy. This was during the time when we were taking the topic of kinematics. And so I've divided the class into 2 groups. One group are the fast learners, and the other group are those that are having some challenges inside the classroom. Then I've sort of paired the students up. Then I've told them that one of you will become the mentor or the master, and then the master would have to teach the apprentice. Afterwards, I've given them some problems to solve, and the apprentice had to do the problem solving themselves, and the score of both the students would be dependent on the score of the apprentice. And so the students really enjoy this, and I think they also found it easier, or found it a little different to be learning from one another. It's like peer tutoring. What methods do you use to grade or evaluate your students' progress? I use different methods. Of course, there's the paper pencil tests. Then I also ask them sometimes to submit their portfolio, especially in my research class now. So I sort of check their progress. I ask them to submit all their work, the corrected ones, the wrong ones, as well as the ones that they've already revised. I also use performance tasks in my classes. If you use technology in your teaching, describe how you use it. Specifically, discuss your experience using a smartboard and ways that you incorporate it into your lessons. Now, in our classrooms, we have our PowerPoint projectors, the LED projectors, and so we'd always need to prepare PowerPoint presentations. There is rarely a class that we do not prepare our PowerPoint presentation. So we always have this. So we have the presentation, we put our activities there, incorporate them there. Now, as for the smartboard, I have no experience using one, but I am a very open person and I love learning. So I think there is going to be no problem if you ask me to learn how to use the smartboard. If you have students who are noisy or non-attentive, share with us 2 ways you get them to be quiet and concentrate. The first step that I do is I try to go over or go towards that student and I ask him, what are you doing? You have a task, you need to be focused on this task. Or if that doesn't work, then I try to change my strategy, because sometimes a student may start making a lot of noise if an activity is not interesting, or if the activity is already very easy for them or too hard for them. So I also check whether this activity is within my student's ability. Describe the most difficult problem you have had to deal with as a teacher and how did you solve this problem? I think this was during the time that I was in Saudi Arabia. Their culture was very different from our country's culture. So they are a very strict Muslim country, and I needed to make a lot of adjustments in terms of culture, in terms of the types of students that I have, because all of them cannot or many of them cannot speak English very well. And they also follow the different curriculum. They were using the British curriculum. And so as a teacher, I needed to adjust to this environment, to the type of students I had, and also with the type of curriculum that I needed to teach my students and I needed to help them learn. Give one example to show that you are a flexible person and that you can make changes to your teaching and methods if that is necessary. Yes, I have just told you about my experience when I was in Saudi. Another thing that was different with teaching in Saudi and teaching in the Philippines is that they only give you 35 minutes for each subject. Whereas in the Philippines, we have an hour for each subject. And so I needed to also adjust my pace in teaching. Within 35 minutes, I needed to finish one lesson because that was a rule, one lesson per day. And so I was able to adjust to that. And luckily, I was even awarded as one of the best teachers of that school. Is there anything you would like to add about your qualifications that we may not be aware of? Yes, I am a consistent honor student. I've also won BIOTA, that's Biology Teachers Association of the Philippines Quiz Bee, twice. And I was also given a project grant from the British Council, Ayala Corporation in the Philippines. Have you spoken to your family about going to the United States to teach? Is there anything such as a family member that might object to your leaving home? Are you aware that your family members may not join you here until approximately 4 to 6 weeks after your arrival? Yes, I'm aware of all of this. And my parents, as well as my family, they're all aware about my decision. I've already worked for 2 years in Saudi Arabia, so I have no problem finishing my contract as a J1 holder in the US. I hope that everything is well with my future school. I hope that you hired me because you are not going to have any regrets. I am a smart person, I am easy to deal with, and I am a very flexible, outgoing, and open person to learning. Thank you so much. Have a good day. God bless.
My name is Maria Claire from Manila. I'm from the Philippines and I teach science in middle school and high school. I want to teach in the United States because I want to gauge the skills and knowledge that I have learned and I have gathered from my 7 years of teaching. I also have diverse teaching experience. I've experienced teaching Arabs, Koreans, and Filipino Chinese now. So I want to test whether these knowledge and skills are already enough to be able to teach American students. What I can offer to the students in the United States is that I have diverse teaching experience. I've experienced teaching Koreans, Filipino Chinese, and Arab students. And so with me is the culture that I've learned from all these different groups of people, and I think I am and I can enhance the cultural experience of the students inside the classroom. So if you are looking for a smart, hardworking, flexible,